I am going to be giving you guys some dynasty buys here on the show before the NFL draft. Again, these are always risks. So you're buying players before the draft. It is a very risky proposition, but it also can be a profitable one because then they can come out of the draft with a higher value, and then you can kind of recoup some of that you gave up. So we're going to be going through three guys and also kind of an extra pick for you guys here on the channel. And just kind of diving into it. So let's get into it. And again, as always, on my videos, I'm not just saying buy this person and then just leaving it at that. What we're going to look at is going to be rankings, startup value right now, and some actual trades to help you kind of gauge value. Trading is very difficult in dynasty leagues. Okay. And I think it's one thing, especially for new dynasty managers, to kind of get over that hump of like, okay, where's the value at, to show you real life trades that have happened in your leagues and in leagues around the dynasty, community and the value. So that's what we're doing here on the show. As always, I always try to give you guys proper value. Now let's get at our first one. Trey Lance. I'm gonna dive on the Trey Lance train here. And I've always been a fan of Trey, and I think it's kind of where his value is at. When you're looking at the sample size of what Trey was able to do when he was healthy, he started 2 games as a rookie. He averaged 22.4 PPR points in those 2 games. Right. He had 60 yards, rushing yards per game in those 2 games as well. And we've seen what those numbers look like with Brock Purdy, right? They add CMC to this offense. We see it at that position. You're betting that Trey Lance can win that job. Now, he's been in the rumor market about maybe having, trades. Now, from what I've heard though, from 49er analysts and fans, it's like, hey, that's kind of those rumors are nonsense. But even if they're not, if he is traded, he could get traded to a better situation to where he could be a starter, and he's going to be that QB1. So if he's traded and he gets to a spot where he can be a QB1 and compete for that role, especially like, hey, he's going to be that guy, his value is going to shoot up better than what it is right now. If he doesn't get traded and he stays and he earns that job, he's in an offense where he can put up 22 PPR points a week, and you'd be like, wow, he has that rushing upside, right? Now, is it risky? Yeah, sure. But when you're looking at where he's at, so our dynasty ranks on Football Guys rankings is at QB 17. Right now, his dynasty ADP, though, is QB 19. So for us, that's a value, that QB 19 5th round range. Now, these are super flex dynasty ADPs from DLF, so appreciate them over there. And thank you for Ryan McDowell letting me have them. And then you're looking at what his ceiling could be. So what could Lance's ceiling be? QB1. I mean, he could be a low-end QB1 with his rushing upside. When you're looking at what he can do, if he's on the field, if he's able to showcase those skills, he could be a QB1 in that offense, right? That's what you're going out there. And at QB 17, QB 19, where he's going at based on kind of the range, he's a value right now. And you just take the risk. Like, I think he's the kind of player that you take the risk on and you're okay with it. And based on just kind of, overall the market. Now let's look at some trades. So generally speaking, with Lance's value where he's going, his pick value right now is about the 108. And I've seen at the 111. So I've seen him go from the 108 to the 112, to be honest with you, straight up. I like to show you the 108 because I think that's outside the tiers, right? So when you're looking at tiers, and we've done tier videos on this channel, 108 is a pretty, interesting tier because you're looking at all 4 quarterbacks maybe being gone, maybe not Levis, right? If Levis doesn't get that capital that you like, or maybe Richardson falls, you're looking at that. 108 is an interesting spot where you might see a little bit of a tier break, right? Anything past the 108, I'm okay shipping. If you want to take a swing at that upside, late first, given for Lance, totally understand it. Now, here's another one that just happened, and these are all recent trades this month. Jordan Love and Rashad Bateman. This is after the OBJ signing for Trey Lance, right? So this guy's betting on Love being the starter, and he likes Bateman. I would take the upside of Lance with where he's at, right? So just to give you an idea of where Lance's value's at in dynasty leagues, I think right now, if you get him for these prices, I think his value can shoot up. Maybe if he doesn't get traded, right, he's competing for that job. I think, hey, he go win that damn thing based on his talent, what he can be. And I think there's misnomers about Lance because of the injury. Now, my next guy, Tyler Algier. Now, again, it is hard buying running backs right now, and it is scary buying running backs. But I thought he was pretty effective runner on the carries that he had last year, right? So down the stretch, he looked good. He took over the last 4 games. He averaged 19 carries, just under 20 carries, 107 rushing yards. So he did fall to day 3. So again, you're going to fall into that day 3 running back category of like, how much can we trust these guys? And over history, we haven't necessarily been able to. But he did average 4.9 yards per carry, ran for over 1,000 yards. He finished top 20 in every kind of metrics number that you're looking at. So yards per touch, evaded tackles per touch, 15 plus yard run rate, all those things. He finished in that top 20. He averaged about 10 points per game, fantasy. So you like that. That's running back 3 numbers. Again, if you're looking at where he's at, so when you're looking at that, those final 4 weeks, he averaged 17 points per game. He was a legitimate running back 1 option in that offense. If they don't take, now here's the risk. If they take a running back at 8, they take Bijan Robinson and they do those things, you're in a little bit of trouble, right? But if they don't, you're still slotting in this kid who could be just hey, when you're looking at what his ceiling can be, a high-end running back too, right? Now, as far as where his ADP is right now, he's at running back 29 in startup drafts. His dynasty rank here at Football Guys is running back 33. So you see it's pretty close to, it depends, different rankers rank guys differently, but he could be a high-end running back too with those numbers that we saw him finish last year, right? Now, let's look at the value and you'll tell me if you think it's worth it. So right now, Tyler Algier, someone got Tyler Algier and the 306 for CEH. And this was a recent trade. I couldn't believe CH is still getting traded out there with this kind of value. I'd take Tyler Algier all day. What has CH shown us that, Tyler Algier has not in that offense? Like, what are you betting with CH in there? The other one is a tight end premium league. So I like to give you kind of different formats of leagues. Tyler Algier for Chig. Where are you doing? And I think this would be a good, maybe you believe in that upside of the tight end position. You're like, hey, I'm going to go grab Chig and I have Algier. He's a luxury piece. I give it to you for both sides here. But, Algier is one of those guys that I think is a sneaky buy right now. If the Falcons don't take a running back in the first round, I think he's going to hold his value. And I think in that heavy rushing offense that we like to see Arthur Smith do, we're all aboard the train, right? So give me Tyler Algier in that category. And again, I've never been a huge Algier guy. And that's one thing about Dynasty. I think you have to understand, like, it's okay not to like some of these guys coming out because their value was too high. But as the market shifts, you have to change the narrative. Never stick to your narrative on players. Always, when new information presents itself, look at that. Hey, he averaged 17 points per game. They like this kid. Hey, he's in a high volume offense. If he gets out of the draft unscathed, he could be that guy. It's a little bit different than like last year, right? We were looking at guys like Chase Edmonds and some of these other guys that have kind of, they popped off and you're like, oh, hey, he has that role, but they have never really done it. Algier's done it. 1,000 yards. Hey, he could kind of be that guy that slots in if you need that little bit of a running back depth. Now, next guy, give me Sky Moore here. Sky's one of those guys that I was off on last year based on value, right? So I on the podcast here at Football Guys, I said, hey, I'm not taking Sky over Olave. That's crazy sauce. Like, I'm not doing that. But people were doing it. But now Sky is an interesting kind of case study here, right? He got targeted 33 times for 22 catches this last year, so it wasn't great. But when you're looking at the playoffs, and I know he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, everybody really liked that. He was very underutilized in that offense, right? So he only played 10 offensive snaps in weeks 2 and 3. His snap totals, though, increased. So as it went on, you saw him kind of getting a little bit more run in there. Now, if he plays around 600 offensive snaps, we're looking at, based on the depth chart right now, Sky Moore being a value in a high, powered offense, and we know what that looks like. So when you're looking at the depth chart right now, we have Kadarius Toney. Toney has just not been able to stay healthy. So if you're betting on Kadarius Toney to be a big cog in that offense, that's a tough one, right? MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Okay, he's been fine, and he could be that guy. And then we know Travis Kelce's there. We understand that. But when you're looking at who's not on that roster right now, right? So we saw Juju leave, okay? When we're looking at McKinnon, not there. So, like, we see the opportunity for more. Moore could be that guy to where, hey, maybe not a weekly plug and play, but maybe some quality games in here where he kind of assumes that role, and maybe he can be that target too, right? Gets that second leading target getter on this team behind Kelce, and maybe he kind of has that. And the reason why I say he could be a value right now is, like, he's going as wide receiver 55. So wide receiver 55 in the 14th round, just looking at the guys going around him and just where that perceived value is, like, Brandon Cooks is going around that. Rondale Moore is going around there. Terrace Marshall from Carolina. And when I look at, like, and then Rondale Robinson and New York Giants, Robinson's coming off an ACL tear, right? You're looking at some of these guys going around that area. Moore has opportunity there, right? So, vacated targets is not really necessarily a real thing, but he can earn those targets in that second role, right? Possible ceiling, maybe wide receiver 3, low end, but based on where his value's at, you could maybe, play a role there. When you're looking at where he's going, Sky Moore for the 210. Hey, back in 210 mark, you're looking at some wide receivers in that area. I think running back's going to shoot up the board in the second round once we know draft capital. So, 210 for Sky Moore. I've seen him go from 210 to 302 in leagues. So thinking about where his value is there. And then Sky Moore for Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is one of those players that got a little love last year in the pre-draft process, did okay this last year. But you're betting on that offense being better in Kansas City, and then Sky Moore taking that next leap, right? And I think that is kind of where you would look at where Sky Moore is at, where his value is. Now, the last bonus one I want to talk about real quick. There's a growing narrative around the Dynasty analyst community, or whatever you want to call it, that the 2023 class is not good anymore. They're just not good, right? And so I think right now is a very good time to go get some 2023 seconds. People do not think that this class, they follow narratives all throughout. And when you get top end analysts talking about how, oh, this class is bad, it's down, that's when you can strike right now, because people don't like those 2023 seconds. Those early 2023 seconds, as soon as we know running back draft capital, are going to be gold. I think that they're going to be incredibly valuable, right? And if these running backs go in that second and third round that day too, you're going to see that value shoot up. Right now, they're pretty low. If you can maybe go out there, maneuver, and get some of these early seconds or late seconds, I think that they're valuable. So let's go through some, and I'm going to show you a few. Dalton Schultz for the 204. Based on just where the tight end class is it's very deep. If you can get in that 204 range, right? You're looking top 16 pick here. That running back position, maybe a wide receiver, Josh Downs, some of these guys that maybe slipped there, Zay Flowers. Shoot, even Michael Mayer and some of these guys at the tight end position, if you want to do that, you'd be looking at an increased value there. Sam Howell for the 206 and Superflex. I understand Howell is supposed to be the presumed starter. If he has a good few weeks beginning of the year, maybe his value goes up. But just assuming where that's at, this might be the chance to recoup. Sam Howell, you probably drafted in the third or fourth round last year, right? You can recoup some of that value. You're looking at the board. That's not a bad value play. And in the next one, hey, Cole Kmet for the 205. So when you look in there, again, these tight ends, there's such a depth in the tight end position, and you have so many of these guys going around that 12th to 14th round as startups and their values in the dynasty and the tight end position. I think you can ship some of these values for like that middle tier and go get a running back and wide receiver. And then, hey, tight ends don't matter after the top five anyway. Like they really just don't. And there's depth in this class that you can go get in the third round that will equal Kmet. Maybe, right? Then you have Juju in the 212 for the 201. I like this deal. The reason I want to show you this deal is like you pair an asset like Juju, who I like Juju. I think he's fine, right? But he's probably at this stage of his career wide receiver 3. 212, which is back end of the tier for that 201, that pretty coveted top 14, top 13 pick in your rookie drafts. I'm all aboard the 201. Like, I think that's a good spot to be. Tyjae Spears, Tank Bigsby, one of these running backs that maybe falls to that area. Maybe Zach Evans gets the draft capital that we like in that round 3 area. And then you're excited because then you can use that 201 and shoot at this point. If you trade for the 201 now, then that running back market shakes up and we got a lot of day 2 guys. You're sitting at the 2-1. Someone might want to move up and get it, and then you can just increase your value for it, right? This is not that you have to select a player at this. You're just going to get in on that 20-23 seconds early, and then you can move him around and stuff when the draft capital comes. So those are my buys and sneaky buys before the NFL draft happens. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you think you think this is crazy, or do you like these buys? Where do you think your value is? And as always, you can find me on Twitter at @theboys_22, and I can help you. Hey, send me some trades. Send them my DMs. My DMs are always open for Football Guys subscribers and subs. And you can find me and say, hey, what do you think about this trade? I answer trade questions all the time in my DMs for you guys. So I appreciate you guys as always. Before you leave, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm, but it also just, hey, I love to engage with the community as a whole, and especially the Football Guys community. So I'll see you guys next week.